The occupational factors that a disability insurance carrier considers when you apply for disability benefits. What you don't know can bite you. Hey, I'm Nancy Cavey. I'm a National ERISA Disability and IDI attorney, and I want to welcome you to this week's episode of Winning Isn't Easy. Before we get started, I've got to give you a legal disclaimer. The Florida Bar Association says I have to say this, so I have. This podcast is not legal advice. Nothing, however, is going to ever prevent me from giving you an easy-to-understand overview of the disability insurance world, the games that carriers play, and what you need to know to get the disability benefits you deserve. So off we go. Making the decision to reduce your hours and apply for disability benefits or to stop work and apply for total disability benefits can be hard. I watched my father make that decision, and it was not an easy one for him to make. Now, you may think that once you decide that you're going to file your disability insurance claim, that a check is going to be overnighted to you, to your house. After all, your doctor has told you to reduce your work and apply for your residual disability benefits or to stop work totally. And even your employer supports your claim. But that's not how it works in the real world. How it works is that your initial application for your benefits is going to be reviewed by the disability carrier from three perspectives. Now, the first perspective is going to be, what are the terms of the policy or the plan? The second is going to be, what's the sufficiency of the medical proof that establishes that you're disabled as that term is defined by your policy or plan? And what's your occupation as that term is defined by your policy or plan? And how are you unable to do the material and substantial duties of that occupation? In this multi-part series, I'm going to concentrate on the occupational evaluation, so you know the factors that the disability carrier plan is likely to consider. And this is much more complex than you might think it would be based on a simple reading of your disability policy or plan. Today, I'm going to talk about three things. First, your specific occupational duties and what you have to know about the most important feature of your disability insurance policy or plan. Two, what were the specific physical and or mental requirements associated with each duty? And thirdly, how long do you have to perform each duty in the course of an average day or week? Got it? All right, let's take a break before we jump into these topics. Welcome back to Winning Isn't Easy. What were the specific physical and or mental requirements associated with each of the material and substantial duties of your occupation? Now is going to be time to drill down and create an Excel spreadsheet. I want you to write down each duty or task in one block on the left, and across the top, I want you to write the terms physical, cognitive, social, behavioral. Now, one of the ways that I go about this is I want my clients to think backwards. I want to have them think about what problems they have with each task from a physical standpoint, from a cognitive standpoint, or from a social behavioral standpoint in terms of their interaction with their supervisors, coworkers, or the public. I don't want you to miss anything here. Disability insurance companies or plan administrators are always looking for a way to justify a claims denial that you can perform your own occupation. And the way they do that is to misclassify your occupation or not to consider all of your occupational duties. Let me give you an example. I want you to see how this game plays out if you're in a sedentary occupation, for example, like Mr. Cherry. I think stories are a great way to explain what disability carriers do and how things work in the real world. So Cherry was a former Microsoft software engineer in the state of Washington, and he became disabled because of chronic and unremitting lumbar radiculopathy. He had worked as part of an elite team that worked on new Microsoft products, and he was required to sit, obviously, while working on coding issues. He developed back problems. He underwent unsuccessful spine surgery. Even after that spine surgery, he had lumbar radiculopathy. It's an intense burning sensation and pain that goes down the back of your leg potentially to your toes. It feels like you're holding a burning match that you can't put out. And I know about that personally because I had lumbar radiculopathy and low back surgery. So what were the specific mental or physical duties required of a software engineer? This is where we start with the analysis of the material and substantial duties of the occupation. Now, obviously, it was coding that required sitting 6 to 10 hours per day. It required mental acuity. It required multitasking. It required problem solving. It required working with a team. That required meetings in person and by Zoom, more sitting, and it also required multitasking with co-employees. Now, in this instance, Cherry supervised the team, and that meant he had to meet in person. He had to do Zoom meetings, which meant more sitting, which required, in the course of supervising this team, mental acuity, multitasking, problem solving, and working to schedules. Cherry also had to do troubleshooting. That required more sitting and multitasking, problem solving, and G.S.D.F. You know what G.S.D.F. means? We kind of made this up in our office. It's a code for getting stuff done fast. Now, he was on a tight deadline, and everyone was waiting on him to solve the problem. In other words, this is pace and production issues. He was on call every 3 weeks, and he could be called back to Microsoft's office in hours. And he had to stay till the problem was solved. So are you getting a feel for what the physical duties were, the cognitive duties were, and the social and behavioral duties? I hope so. So let's break this down. What were the physical and cognitive problems that Cherry had? Now, Cherry could not sit for more than 5 to 30 minutes at a time without pain, and he couldn't sit for more than 4 hours a day. He needed unscheduled breaks every 30 minutes, and he would miss more than 2 days per month because of his pain and dysfunction. From a cognitive standpoint, he had trouble with all that concentration and multitasking because of his pain and the side effects of medication. And I bet that he had problems interacting with others, staying focused, and communicating with his supervisors and coworkers because of his pain and dysfunction. So you understand now better what the problems were that he was having and his inability to do the material and substantial duties of his occupation. Well, I'm glad you did, because the disability carrier didn't, and off we end up in federal court. So let me tell you what the judge did here. The federal judge looked at the physical and cognitive duties and Cherry's medical problems, and he tied it together, if you will. Cherry had the lumbar radiculopathy that caused the chronic pain, and that's been recognized by courts as causing pain. So the judge did not have a problem with Cherry's complaints of lumbar radiculopathy. His doctors confirmed his chronic pain, and the judge also reviewed what's called a functional capacity evaluation. A functional evaluation is a day or a 2-day test that tests objectively a person's physical level of functioning. And the FCE confirmed his restrictions and limitations on an objective basis. So it just wasn't Cherry's subjective complaints about his problems and his difficulties. These were confirmed with objective testing. So the judge noted that an employee who couldn't sit for more than 4 hours in an 8-hour day couldn't, by definition, perform sedentary work. That requires sitting most of the time. And the judge noted that sitting tolerance that varies, in other words, you have to get up and you have to move around, is not consistent with sedentary employment. The judge awarded benefits and rejected those made-up reasons to deny Cherry benefits. But it took him years to get his benefits because of the way this application was completed and the way that the disability carrier analyzed his occupational duties. So don't screw this up. It's going to take some time. I don't want you to gloss through it. Ultimately, this needs to be, I think, reviewed by an experienced ERISA disability attorney who should be helping you create this document, and it should be supplied to your doctor, who's going to ultimately be asked to fill out an attending physician statement form. That form is going to ask questions about your restrictions and limitations and why you can't do the material and substantial duties of your occupation. This type of document that you complete and have approved by your disability attorney is a way to educate your doctor about the material and substantial duties of your occupation, what you're having problems with, and will allow your doctor to answer meaningful questions on that attending physician statement form that will explain why you can't do the material and substantial duties of your occupation. Got it? Okay, let's take a break.